Hi everyone and welcome to the new video. In this video I will show FNIRSI GC-03 radiation detector and I will show how we can install a custom RadPro firmware on it. This firmware is free and open source and you can easily install it on your FNIRSI device and drastically increase its functionality. Without further ado, let's get into it. First I will briefly explain how the radiation detector works. FNIRSI is a budget detector. As we can see on the screen, its price is less than $100. Obviously it's not a professional one, but it's not bad for this price. It has a high sensitive Geiger tube. It can detect not only ionizing radiation but also electric and magnetic field. FNIRSI has the internal speaker and it can produce the alarms, but clicks are not implemented in the standard firmware, and this will be one of the important improvements. It's much easier to detect the difference in the radiation level when you also hear the clicks. The thing is, FNIRSI is a large company and it produces a lot of devices like oscilloscopes, multimeters and so on. Radiation detectors is just not their main business. The internal firmware has a very basic functionality. As we will see, the fonts are not properly aligned, there are not so many settings and so on. But apparently FNIRSI just don't care, they don't have enough time for this. I can imagine that FNIRSI has a lot of different devices and they just don't have enough people to implement all the features. First I will show the standard firmware and then I will show the upgrade process and then I will show what we can get after that. Let's get started. This is the FNIRSI radiation detector and let's see how it works. This is the standard firmware. And as we can see, the controls are pretty simple. There is only one selector wheel. Technically there are only 3 screens here. This screen is showing the current radiation level. For example, here I have a vintage clock and this clock is radioactive. This is a just clock made in France, maybe in the 40s or 50s. And if I put it nearby, we can see the alarm and we can hear it. This is the second screen. It has a lot of information, but practically it's not very informative. For example, here I have a CPS mode and I would like to see microsieverts per hour as well, but I cannot see it and all these parameters are not configurable. And the third mode is a graph mode. For me it is the most useful one because it is easy to see the change. For example, if I put the clock nearby, we immediately can see that the graph is increasing. The hardware of this detector is pretty good, but the firmware is not so good in my opinion. This detector can also show electric and magnetic field, which can be useful sometimes. And practically these are all the screens. There are not so many settings here. And it has some simple bugs. For example, this wheel is not very accurate, sometimes it generates 2 clicks instead of 1. FNIRSI company has a lot of devices like oscilloscopes, multimeters. Radiation detectors is not their main business, so there were practically no updates in this firmware. It has a speaker inside, but this device produces no clicks. Another disadvantage, the screen is not very bright. This is the maximum brightness here. As for the settings, there are not so many of them. We can set the units, we can set the alarms, practically that is it. In my opinion, the hardware is good, but the firmware can be better. But the sensitivity is good. If I put it near the clock, I can immediately see the updates. Technically for the budget detector it does the job. And now let's see the firmware update. Now I will install a RadPro firmware and as we will see it has much more features compared to the standard one. As a first step I need to hold the OK button and connect the device to the USB. And as we can see the update message appears on the screen. Important thing here, we need to use Windows. macOS or Linux is not supported, so I had to find this old Windows tabled. And on the Windows screen we can see that a new drive D had appeared. And the next step is easy. I need to download the RadPro firmware from my radiation detector and copy it to the D drive, and technically that is it. By the way, the same way you can restore the original firmware, you can download it from the FNIRSI website. So if for some reason you don't like the new firmware, you can always revert it back. Now I can disconnect the computer, I don't need it anymore. Okay, the firmware was updated and let's see how it works. And I can immediately see that it's much better. First I can hear clicks, and they help very much to find the objects, and it's just fun. For example, I have this radioactive clock nearby. The general idea is the same, but there are lots of improvements in details. For example, with this knob I can switch the screens, and as we can see the font is much better. This screen is not very bright, and this big font is much easier to read. As we can see, the radiation level is a bit high because I have a radioactive clock nearby. I can put it a bit further. As we can see, the values are immediately changing. Also, I can switch the parameters with this back button. For example, I can see the max value, I can see the count in CPM, I can see a cumulative dose and so on, so it's much more convenient. With this knob I can switch the screens, I can see the instant value, I can see the average value. Also we can see values of the magnetic fields. Here is the magnetic field, here is the electric field. This is the graph screen, and it is also much better. I can go to settings and I can set intervals. For example, if I go to the log, as we can see, I can record values every second, every minute and so on. The maximum length of the log is limited by the memory of the device. And there are really lots of settings here. For example, we can even have a random generator, and I can generate a password or something like this. The radioactive decay is truly random, so we have scientifically proved random generator. There is even a game here, as we can see. I don't know how to play chess, so don't expect me to be a good player. But as we can see, the device works, and it even produces clicks at the same time. So it is a really cool upgrade. As we can see, we can even specify the parameters of the Geiger tube, and this firmware supports different type of tubes, so it is nice. As we can see, there are many of them. We can adjust the sound, we can adjust the screen, we can adjust brightness. I can easily change the intervals. It's nice to see that people know what they're doing, and this firmware is much better than the standard one. So shame on you, FNIRSI guys. You should pay better attention to your devices. So respect to the RadPro team. As you can see, it's a really cool job and it works well. And that is it for this video. Thanks for watching. I hope you learned something new. As we can see, the RadPro Firmware is a really cool upgrade and I highly recommend it. Press like and subscribe if you want to see more videos like this. You are also welcome to visit my Patreon page. This support helps me to buy things like this for testing. This video is not sponsored and I bought this radiation detector on my own. Thanks for watching and see you next time.